Я є прихильником свободи слова. Мені може не подобатись те, що відбувається на програмі, але я віддам життя за те, щоб вона була.
Greetings from Kyiv. Welcome to Shuster Live in English. And I'll start from presenting our guests, and you'll understand the topic we are going to be discussing. Yulia Marushevska, head of Odessa Regional Customs Service.
Good afternoon.
Giorgi Arveladze, who was head of administration of the president of Georgia from 2005 to 2006 under President Mikhail Saakashvili. Rahemtulla, reporter of Kyiv Post. Peter Dickinson, publisher of Business Ukraine magazine. Paul Neeland, writer, founder of Statement Email. So, and live from Munich, I almost forgot, SASHA BOROVIK. SASHA was acting deputy head of Odessa Regional State Administration from 2015 to 2016. Now he's working in Munich. And obviously we're going to be discussing the loudest resignation of this week. Mikhail Saakashvili resigned from his post as head of state administration of region of Odessa. We don't call him governor because governors are usually elected. He was appointed by the president. And I'll immediately start from Giorgi. That's not a move that Mikhail Saakashvili likes, to resign. Something happened that he was forced to do it.
You know, thank you for letting me start this conversation. He's a doer. You know, he's an achiever. He's a reformer. He has a huge drive. He has a lot of energy. You know, and of course he never quits. And I wouldn't say that he quit anything. In fact, the reason that he is not quitting, that's why he resigned, because quitting would have meant to stay in this system, you know, to stay in the system and accept the fact that you're not doing anything, and accept the fact that you're here just, you know, just to be part of this, you know, political establishment that is basically not delivering any results. You know, Misha is a different type of person. You know, he never. It's not about the position or what title he has. You know, it's about what he can do. You know, and he's a guy of big ideas. He's a guy of big things that he wants to achieve.
But still, when he lost elections in Georgia, he didn't continue struggling. He came to Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, because when he did what he did in Georgia, it's also remarkable because he's the first Georgian politician, and especially we see how rare it is now. You know, when we watch the elections after Misha, you know, that just took place, and we all saw what happened. You know, the government that is extremely unpopular and received. Even according to their numbers, received, you know, somewhere around 49 or something %. They got the constitutional majority. So, so Misha was the first person who, in Georgian history, accepted the will of people expressed on the elections at the ballot box. In Georgia, we never had the history of peaceful transfer of power. And Saakashvili was the first ever Georgian politician, first ever, I think, can you help me remember any former Soviet president that I mean, I'm not talking about the Baltic states, that accepted the result of the elections and left?
Yushchenko, 2010.
Okay, so that, I mean, okay, one. Yeah. I mean, I would say Rosa Otunbayeva is an example from Central Asia. I mean, she's somewhat, you know, the female version of George Washington in, you know, in their political reality. But I mean, what Saakashvili did is rarity in this part of the world generally, but he was the only one who did it in Georgia. So I mean, that's not any in any form that doesn't describe him as a person who quits. I mean, he finished what he was elected to do, and he did his 2 terms. And when the people expressed their will at the ballot boxes, he was the first person to announce it. And by the way, it was just like in the United States, when the commencement speech happens on the night of the elections after the exit polls, basically. I mean, in former Soviet world, we're used to waiting for election results for weeks sometimes, right? And no leader is willing to accept it at the same day as the elections happen. So that describes Misha as I mean, exactly what I said. He's a person of big ideas, and he wanted to change Georgia, and he did it, and he wants to change Ukraine, and that's what he's going to be dedicated to. I mean, for him, it doesn't matter what title he has. What matters is whether he can continue his reforms, whether he can, aspire to this huge, goals that he has, and he has big ideas for Ukraine. And that's very important. And what he did in Georgia is possible in Ukraine. I mean, what he did in Georgia was combat corruption. And it is absolutely possible to combat corruption in Ukraine. It's easy.
Before we get into politics, Yulia, you've been practically trying to implement reforms and still trying to do so, I imagine. So then Mikhail Saakashvili said on the resignation day, why should Ukrainians care who mistreats them? Poroshenko or Yanukovych, which are really loud words. I mean, in Ukraine they were heard by everybody. Has nothing changed? Is it really difficult to change? Are you facing obstacles every day?
No, I see the system that doesn't want to change. I didn't face the system under the Yanukovych, but what I see here as a newcomer, I would say, to the public service, is a very closed, corrupt, actually mafia state, which is not interested to be reformed at all. And the challenges that I faced is that, yes, they are letting you to do some small steps, but then when you are coming to the core of the reform, if you speak about customs reform, when you want to make a transparent pricing for the taxation and so on, when you're going to change the software, then you're just blocked. As soon as you're coming to the point when the main stakeholders of the system will lose their money, their cash flows, then you just banned, stopped, and you can forget that you can move forward. That's all. That's what I faced, and I'm facing for more than a year right now.
Well, mafia-like. So, Mikhail Saakashvili, I mean, he used harsh words. Yeah. But I would say there is one statement, one concerning Arseniy Yatsenyuk, which I would like you to listen to.
President Poroshenko told me that Yatsenyuk was making a mess. We created the movement for clearance and helped him to get rid of Yatsenyuk. And what did we end up in? Yatsenyuk's people were hardly ever moved by president's people within the exciting schemes, continuing stealing money the same way. Moreover, Avakov and Nasirov, the corruption top players, remained where they used to be. I am not going to put up with it. I am sick of it. And what I want to say is that I've never been so massively cheated upon by anybody in my entire life, and never in such a cynical manner.
Arsen Avakov is the Minister of Interior, and Mr. Nasirov is the head of the Fiscal Service in Ukraine, and you are his subordinate. Yeah, so that is sort of, Paul, it's a tough statement.
It sounds like a tough statement. It is a tough statement. He's naming some big names, but he's actually not making any concrete allegations at the same time. The allegation is corruption, right? But that's not something. So if we go back to when Aivaras resigned, right? The day after Aivaras made his statement and he said, Kononenko specifically is trying to get me to put people into state-owned enterprises to continue ways of drawing money out of the state. The very next day, Arveladze had to go into the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine to talk about his statement and to begin to build a case. I watched Saakashvili's resignation speech, and I don't see really, I mean, yes, he's naming names, but I don't see a specific accusation in there of what are the tools of corruption, what are the specific things that people are being blamed for. And early on in that speech, one of the things that he said, he was talking about the fact that the building had not been completed, and he said that, you know, the money's been stolen, the money for the renovation has been stolen. Stolen by whom? Where's the financial management?
Like that's very easy to explain, because I was monitoring this project of construction.
Okay.
It was done by the Ministry of Infrastructure, by the administration of the seaports of Ukraine.
Okay.
And to make this reconstruction, they got 28 million hryvnias from the state budget. They won the competition. The construction company had an obligation to finish the facade, to make like all the inner works and so on. And then in a year, we have this half-destroyed building.
Okay.
Then here is the question, like we have responsible people, we have administration of seaports, we have construction company, and we have a question, we have a building that is not finished. That's very clear. Like,
that answer there, that's the building has not been completed to a correct standard. What Saakashvili said was that the money for renovation has been stolen. So it goes. But my question hasn't been answered. Yeah. My question hasn't been answered. Who stole it? Where's the financial management?
My question to you is: did you somehow expect that he would put all this allegation in his resignation speech? Because if you look at his tenure in Odessa, I haven't seen, for the last 1 year, I haven't seen any other Ukrainian politician that was naming specific names, specific corruption schemes, going to specific offices, you know, making scandals, you know, fighting to specific people face to face. I mean, he put out so many specific cases throughout his, I don't know how many months? 18 months of...
But Giorgi, some of them he won. Why did he start losing all of a sudden?
One in what context?
Well, in a sense, when he was sort of accusing the airlines for high prices.
Did he want it? This guy was appointed. Like, I think after 3 months or something, this guy was still doing his job. You know, all these wins, that they seemed to be wins, but at the end, they are kind of imitation of the wins.
Example,
like, that's kind of a play that the establishment is playing with us.
Who's the mayor of Odessa?
Who's the mayor of Odessa? And he's been very specific, you know. I mean, he's been very specific about, you know, even recently when the building was destroyed, you know, overnight, the historic building in Odessa. I mean, what else did you, I mean, of course, you can say that he should have made all the, you know, cases, you know, put them out, you know, one, you know, resignation speech. I wouldn't suggest, you know, as a speechwriter to talk about all the cases, you know, that he's been talking. I mean, he generally said that, okay, look, I'm fed up. I've been fighting for these cases. You know, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, like he's been talking about corruption in Kyiv. He's been talking about, you know, patronage. He's been talking about, you know, sabotage. He's been talking about Odessa, you know, above, below him, you know, on the, you know, village administration levels. So,
do you think now, though?
So, I mean, to say that he wasn't specific, I mean, I don't think that that's. I mean, with all due respect, I think that yeah, maybe in one particular speech, you can say that he didn't put out a prosecutorial case. But I mean, his whole Ukrainian career, political career, has been about, waving the red flag or whatever the flag about those cases.
That's the right statement. We should continue give like a real full cases and full accusation of concrete people. And there are a lot of such cases after this 18 months in different areas.
Is that what's going to happen now, though? Because now he's going to move into national politics. So is this is the chance for him, is it not, to back up his words, to actually show what he's got? I mean, he's been making a lot of noise, pointing a lot of fingers. So I feel like now he's got to show something. If he's going to move into national politics, if he's going to get the people behind him, then he's got to prove that he's actually got something.
The story, the story of the Saakashvili era in Odessa is sadly, I think can now be called a failure in a broad sense, but the failure is maybe not his, it's a failure of the government in Kiev to support him. They've clearly not supported him, they've clearly not given him the support that he expected to get, and he's now turned around and said that, and said that they've told him things and not lived up to their promises. As you say, now it's showtime, now he has to fight a campaign. Now, if there's not elections...
Wait a second. If I try to read very carefully what Mikhail Saakashvili said, so his first priority, according to him, which was formulated by the president, was to get rid of Yatsenyuk, not to reform Odessa region.
Well, this is an example he cites in his speech. I don't know if it's fair to say that was his priority, but I think the example he gives was that he worked with the president to remove Yatsenyuk and then found out that all the people who were actually playing the key roles were still in place.
And
so
I think
nothing
the
had actually
point
changed.
of that statement was that he was being told, or given an excuse that it's the Yatsenyuk. Yatsenyuk is the problem. Because of Yatsenyuk, there's corruption. If we get rid of Yatsenyuk, everything will be corruption clean, and we can all reform. So that's what I think that's why he said it. Okay, there's no Yatsenyuk, but where are the reforms?
Well, if a lot of the insinuations of this speech, saying in a broad sense, is that he didn't have the support in Kiev, and I think it'd be interesting to hear your perspective, Yulia, on this, but I think that it was very clear after the elections for the mayor in October of 2015, when our guest in Munich was a very strong candidate, and it looked certainly from the distance that there was a lot of very questionable practices that allowed Trukhanov to stay on, and there was an attempt to make a stand over that, and he didn't get the support he needed from Kiev at that point. I think it was already clear at that point that it wasn't going to come.
Sasha, and you left before Mikhail Saakashvili. Did you expect him to do that? Did you expect the timing?
First of all, hi, I see quite a few friendly faces, people that I love, respect around the table. It's good to see you. There was a situation in May when I was flying to Munich for a few weeks and I was supposed to come back. I received information that SBU will be waiting for me at the border.
The security service.
Questions. The security service would be waiting for me on the border in order to intimidate and start some process related to the mayor's elections. We discussed this within the group, and the idea, the resolution was that I should not be coming back at that time, and so I stayed in Munich. Mr. Saakashvili had resigned. Well, if you remember, sometime in April, a group of people, including Yulia, we walked out in front of the cameras. There was a press conference when the press later called it an ultimatum. That wasn't an ultimatum. We just showed up and we said, look, it becomes unbearable. We cannot build anything here like this. Unless we get some support from you, Mr. President, there is no way we can stay here because it's simply not effective. We are simply wasting our time, our intellect, our energy. And so there was no much change since then. Nothing has changed. Everything remained the same. And from that point on, it pretty much was obvious that Mr. Saakashvili will have to resign. When I had to leave, Yulia was sabotaged on the customs issues. When 3 deputies that were supposed to come in, they were not appointed. It was clear that there was a situation when it would be harder and harder for Mr. Saakashvili to deliver. And when the administration building, the center of administrative services was shut down, it just became so obvious that that the resignation was imminent. Salik.
We can all talk to Sasha.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah. Hi, Sasha said just I want to underline it. You know, he said that, you know, if you're put in a government position and you're not allowed to do anything, you know, you're not allowed.
But you see, but you can get the state security service.
Yeah, but I want
that comes from a very top.
I'd like to underline the fact that he called it waste of time. That's the thing, you know. I mean, this is a different mentality of a public administrator. When he thinks that if he's put there and he's not allowed to bring change, he's wasting his time. I mean, how many public administrators do you know in, unfortunately, this political culture that think that being on a high position is waste of time, unless you're given the ability to do something big, you know. So that, you know, these people, they don't want positions. They don't want to be called, you know, deputy governors or governors. It's not about that, you know. It's a waste of time for them if you don't let them, you know, if you don't let Yulia, you know, do work every day to achieve her dream, you know. I mean, these are people who are looking at politics not as something that, you know, will bring them good salary or good income. They're looking at it as something, as a chance to do something great. So if you don't allow them, they don't want to. They will go. They will leave. And Saakashvili was receiving criticism last year why he was quiet. Remember? I mean, he lost some popularity because he was not loud, because he was not saying any harsh words that some of the members of the society wanted him to say, because everybody felt that, okay, this guy's being sabotaged. Why is he not doing anything? So you know, when they claim that Saakashvili is a populist, you know, actually the populist move would have been not to lose some popularity and actually do the populist thing, right? But he decided to live in the tent and, you know, build the road and, you know, achieve something, you know, and
I think we should come back to the point where we were starting, because all this Odessa regional administration, it wasn't about, you know, fighting against Yatsenyuk. It was about piloting the reforms in Ukraine, starting from Odessa. Our goal and the main idea for the team was that here in Odessa, in the biggest region of Ukraine, in one of the most criminal region, in one of the most corrupt region, we can pilot things that can be multiplied through all over the country then. Absolutely. And we started. In 3 months, we cut it like public officials in regional administration. We hired like 26 heads of district administrations. We like brought new people. People were coming through all over the world, Ukrainians and not Ukrainians, to be a part of this change. Mm-hmm. And at first time, as I said, like we had a chance to move like few steps forward, and it gave us a great energy. But all this story wasn't about preserving the system as it is. It was about piloting the new system. Mm-hmm.
At what point did you start to feel that you were facing opposition, not locally amongst the Odessa elites, but nationally? That not only that Kyiv wasn't supporting you, but they were actually...
Yulia, you'll respond in a few minutes. We'll break. Yulia, so Peter's question, when did the pressure start coming from above?
You know, we were facing even like first obstacles with the appointing new people when, you know, that's the bureaucratic system, very like vertical, and you need approvals for each step. Being a head of the regional administration or being the chief of customs, you're kind of a soldier and you have a general and you have to obey. That's how this system works. And bringing all these new crazy people, this new attitude, you know, each our step was facing some obstacles. You know, when we were approving these people, that began. But the culmination was the regional elections. Before, when they needed this new people, in the region, when they needed someone like to help actually to win the election, when they needed this force after the elections, everything kind of turned around, and
So they used you.
I wouldn't say they used, but it's hard to take it, as you said. But that's what I saw, like with my chief of the State Fiscal Service. Like our first few meetings, he was, agreeing for everything. Change software, okay. Hire 100 new customs officers, okay. Start a new terminal, yes. Changing the procedures, yes, we'll do that. And I'm like, wow, we are doing the reform. But then after the elections, the picture is completely different. I'm getting the letter that any change of the software system is a criminal case, and the public officials will be punished for that. After the elections, I'm getting the message that I cannot actually do the reform through the implementing new legislation, because first 3 months I was working with the Customs and Tax Committee of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukrainian Parliament to implement new legislation for piloting the customs reform. And in 3 months, I'm getting a message from the head of the party that, this legislation won't be implemented, and all this is happening after the regional elections.
It was in November, December last year, yeah?
Yeah, and then after the November, December, we just, yes.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you've just described, the process you've described, is not unique to Odessa. I mean, reform in this country, in all the spheres, has gone through a very similar process, where initially there's huge enthusiasm, everyone seems to be on board, but slowly it gets watered down, it gets blocked, people find bureaucratic and administrative ways to stop it from happening. But I think the point of that is, though, it takes much longer than 18 months, for example, the amount that Saakashvili was in his post, to make this happen. I mean, look, for example, e-declarations. I mean, that took a long time, did it not? We talked about it here recently. That was a transformational step, but it took huge efforts from civil society, from international partners, but eventually it got there. So, I mean, I think the point is, 18 months not that long, and you've got to play the game in a certain way. So Saakashvili stepping out now, is that not in some ways a defeat?
No, I would actually reply on using the customs case as I saw it, because if we are speaking about starting the reform, you don't need 18 months for that. The timing of the pilot was max 6 months. If after the implementing of the legislation, it could be finished in 3 months. To make this foundation, you don't need to, to make something very huge. You just make some small steps, and changing the system, you make some basics. And we came there to make these basic steps. But what I faced.
But even those?
Look, we were asking about few things to launch this pilot in the customs. That was about implementing customs fee, making the salaries for public servants higher, implementing new software, and implementing one-stop shop on the border. That's kind of a coordination of all the control agencies on the border. That's not something really hard to be made. But what I saw, instead of making that, I was asked to be a part of dozens of experts groups, negotiations, and to discuss the legislation at the parliament, then to discuss a decree in the cabinet of ministers. All that was going on for 6 months, and then in 6 months, when I'm called, speaking to the people who are responsible for the customs reform under the prime minister, they're telling me, we are waiting for the plan from the Customs and Border Protection Agency from the US, and then we will base our strategy how to reform the Ukrainian customs on it, and it will take us maybe 3 more months to come with a new strategy.
But
that is not reforming.
That's how it works here.
No.
I would draw Sasha into discussion as well. Is 18 months a lot or not? Is it a defeat or not?
Can I jump in? I have a question to you. You said it takes long time. How do you know? According to what? Based on what knowledge are you saying that it takes long time?
Well, I mean,
because we've done it. We've done this reform, and it doesn't take long time. In fact,
it takes political will. You're doing it or not.
That's the bottom line.
That's
yes,
all.
it doesn't take long time at all. Remember what Kaha Bendukidze said. If you don't see results of reform in 6 months, that means that you're not doing any reform because it's amazingly quick. I mean, we've done it. We know it. Once you do it, it's
the Georgian situation is very different from the Ukrainian situation. Georgia is a very, very small country.
No. This is
compared to Ukraine.
Yes, this is the most common. Claim that people are making that Georgia is small and Ukraine is big.
But Odessa is not that big.
Yeah, first of all, Odessa is not that big. Second of all, they were talking about piloting, single cases of reforms that would then be possible.
With completely ready to go procedures, with all the books ready to use software, everything was ready to start. That's not something that you have to create, to think. We were creating that before. We were not coming to the position, without anything. We were coming with the plan, with timing, with deadlines, with a ready to go action plan.
And I believe me, it has nothing to do with the size of the country. I mean, it has nothing to do with the size of the country. In fact, in a bigger country, it's somewhat easier, to reform the system than in a smaller country. And there are many. I can endlessly talk about some of the specifics why I think so, but I don't want to waste time on that. But just take my word. Size has nothing to do with the reform because the reform starts from the first person and then his deputy and then the leaders of the government agencies and the heads of the departments.
Can I give an example?
It's not hard. It's not 40 million people. It's so easy. In fact, fighting corruption and reforming, and I'm saying it with all full responsibility on every word, is much easier than people think. It's easy to defeat corruption and it's easy to reform the system. It's easy. But it just takes the will. If you want it, if you want it, then you do it. And it's easy and it's done quickly.
But I think you just hit on a really key point, and I know you wanted to say something. I'll be very quick. But yes, like you say, it's political will. But like George has just said, how many people are we actually talking about here? The people with vested interests that are blocking these reforms in a country of 44 million people, we're talking about a few dozen, a couple of hundred?
Less.
That's
Maybe
it.
less.
That's it. That's the size of
course,
the
that's
challenge.
the size of
But that's why these few dozen or a couple of hundred or whatever, we need to be very specific about what the allegations are against them, not just insinuation, but specifics and details. And as you said earlier on, prosecutorial cases, right, needs action now.
I just want to come back to the case about the time you have to spend to reform something. If we are coming back to hiring new public servants, at the beginning, when there were a political will to do that, we covered all the biggest region in Ukraine with 26 people, and we had a competition of 6,000 people. And we've done everything, all the bureaucracy, all the preparation, 7 levels of competition, IQ test, integrity test, 2 interviews, and so on and so on and so on, in 3 months. That's when you have a political will. And now we have 3 deputies who are not appointed for 5 months in the end of our work. That's how it looks. When I came...
Let's hear Sasha as well.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. So 18 months.
18 months, I should note that of the 18 months I worked in the Odessa region, officially I held the position only for 3 months. And the rest of the time, my documents were going through the bureaucratic process of getting approved, and I had no rights to sign anything or to authorize anything. So 18 months, it was not. It was significantly less. And that brings me to the point of what Yulia had mentioned, that is political will, because if you decide to change things dramatically, if you want to move the mafia from the mayor's office, if you want to put the corrupt officials into prison, if you want to fix the customs, if you want to fix the Odessa port and the Odessa port factory, you have to move very quickly. You have to put the prosecutor's office on it. You have to sign your people immediately. You have to give them authority. And you have to say, look, you have my whole political support, and we're going to clean this place within 1 year. And that's a project. Then you feel that you have air cover, that you have political support. Instead, what we had was we were fighting against mafia. We were fighting Ukrainian bureaucracy. We were fighting with customs. We were fighting the BPP representatives who actually were intimidating us.
BPP is not an oil company. It's a presidential...
Local Petro Poroshenko.
Yes.
Correct. And so with that, you certainly feel that you are sabotaged. And if you are sabotaged on every front, if you go against one of the strongest mafia syndicates in the world, and if you don't have that political support, you will fail whether it's 3 months, 18 months, or whatever. Because if you compare Georgia to Ukraine, the difference is not the size. The difference is that there was a strong political will when the government won the support in the parliament, when there was a strong political president, when there was strong economic bloc trying to fix the reforms, when there was a strong prosecutor's office, and they basically put those people who deserve to be in prison, they put them there, they liberalized the economy, they fixed the customs, and that's what the reform was. Instead, we were moving back and forth, we were tentative through all that time, and that tentative situation would never bring the results. That's the whole thing.
Rahim, and you know that when Mikhail Saakashvili invited Kaha Bendukidze, who was now he's a great reformer and he's a great industrialist. When he was invited to Georgia, he got the green light, he got all the support.
Absolutely.
And that's why he achieved things.
Absolutely. He put down the most crazy to that thinking ideas on the table. And we said, okay, we're doing it. Yeah. And we did it because we believed in it. We wanted to do it, and that's the whole thing. And then about timing, I mean, if you're a politically sensitive government and if you want to deliver results, in fact, you have to move fast because no government has too much time, especially in Ukraine after so many disappointments that this society has gone through.
There's an argument to say that the Saakashvili appointment actually bought Poroshenko time, in a sense. That
and this is a sorry result.
It was an excuse in a sense.
A good result.
Okay, a huge amount of media coverage it attracted.
The prime minister changed. Arseniy Yatsenyuk left. Vladimir Groisman became prime minister. Things changed?
Unfortunately, no. We had a great hope for this political change. And that was the reason why we didn't give up after the regional elections. After everything was stopped at the first time. That's what I was telling to our guests, that in Odessa we were kind of having a few attempts to do the reforms. And the second one happened when the new prime minister was appointed. But what happened at the end? In May, Prime Minister came to the Odessa seaport and gave concrete promises about reforms. He said that the construction will be finished till August, then the software will be implemented, that even my reprimands and warnings from the chief of the State Fiscal Service, that's kind of a political game that is being played in the Ukrainian bureaucracy, will be cancelled and so on. Then today is November, and almost like each of this statement is failed. Nothing happened. Then, of course, it seems that this new government is trying to do something, But unfortunately, the results are the same. That's now more looks like imitation of the reforms than really reforms. And of course, imitation takes more time. If you imitate, you can talk, you can make working groups, you can ask experts to come from all over the world. Like, you know, in State Fiscal Service, they had about like 3 groups, 3 different experts groups, which are paid by international organizations, by US government, EU Commission, and they are advising what must be done in Ukrainian customs. And at the same time, these guys are sitting on the cash flows and, okay, advise us. The more time we sit, the more money we have, you know? And of course, it's not going anywhere. In our case, we have a project approach. I didn't come to be the chief of customs. I came to make a concrete project, to make a concrete pilot. And the same with each public official that was appointed with our team, like in our team. We were coming to do something, to finish the project of Odessa, to finish the project of Vilkova, to finish the project of a new airport building, to finish like the projects in all these district administrations. Like each of them, you know, we were brainstorming what we can do. We were putting it together in the plans. Like, I remember all our strategic sessions at the beginning. We were discussing, here's like the area we can do something in 6 months, and like you take in this area, you're taking this project, you're taking this project, and so on.
Familiar to me.
What do you do now? I mean, you have all these great plans. I agree, and it sounds wonderful. But these are the realities. The reality is, it's not going to happen overnight. We had the Maidan. That was a revolution.
Yes.
That was a revolution. But here we are, 2.5 years, 3 years later almost, and we're still fighting. So how do you deal with the realities? What are you going to do? Saakashvili has decided to go in a different direction. He said, okay, I'm going to go into national politics because I couldn't do it here in my post in Odessa. So is that the answer, do you think? I mean, it's...
No, my philosophy was, like, I'm a generation that grew up on Maidan. For me, politics didn't exist at all before Maidan. I didn't believe that something is happening in Ukraine, but only the business interest.
So now, in that sense,
what I learned there...
This is progress.
What I learned there is that we were making small steps, and with these small steps, we made a big change. And that's the philosophy I brought to the public service in Odessa region. Even in Odessa customs, we achieved results. We cleaned customs, the most corrupt customs, regional customs, from corruption. We banned all these unneeded physical inspections by all the authority to ask bribes, not to really to inspect goods, like from the border. Like, we did concrete steps, and we achieved concrete results there. But now I face that, unfortunately...
Is it becoming more difficult? You had a model that worked.
You know, we did steps that made a current system a little bit more comfortable for business, a little bit more predictable, like in terms of how much money and time you are spending while doing all these bureaucratic procedures. But on the same time, when I was appointed with 2 goals: to clean up the customs from corruption and to pilot the new system, to pilot the modern customs. And yes, I had these achievements of changing the existing system, but what I want is to pilot the new modern one. And to do that, I have no permission.
Okay, let me, because we don't have that much time left, I wanted to ask you a question. Basically, it's a very important topic, the election in the United States, and everyone is saying that President-elect Donald Trump doesn't know a lot about Ukraine, and he'll have to learn. And imagine that he starts learning by watching this show. What conclusions?
I think he's a very direct personality, and I think he would say, "You're losers." You're losers. You've got to come in. You're fired for sure. You're all fired. But certainly, everyone. Certainly, but I think he would see a very simple solution. He would see a sledgehammer solution. He would say, "Just get in and do it." Now, we're seeing that it doesn't work like that. But I think that the other lesson to draw from this whole experience of Saakashvili is that without the political will at the top, you're banging your head against the wall and going nowhere with it.
I have my version of what he would say. He'll probably say, I know nothing about what they're talking about, but I know that Ukraine is struggling with corruption. And I know Misha. I know this guy. I know that Misha has done a lot. You know, he's been to Georgia. He was investing his $300 million project in Georgia. He believed in Georgian economy. He admired our reforms. He saw it with his own eyes, and he has said amazing things about Misha when he went back. I mean, amazing things on U.S. television, and so that's what he would say. He would say, "I know this guy. I mean, he must be right in this argument."
If Misha's here, it can't all be that bad then.
Well, I'm afraid that he'll have listened to Yulia and said, oh God, they're using US government money to have a lot of those advisory meetings while they're stealing money from the state. No, we should stop that.
That's also a good point.
But maybe that will be useful for us.
But just as one
To lose money?
To lose the advisors and start to do the real job.
You know, our friend brought up a very significant question about what's the plan, what are you going to do next, and you brought up also Maidan, you know, this enthusiasm that Maidan generated. I think what should be the plan for everybody in Ukraine, for every normal person, is to save the idea of Maidan and not allow the comeback of the Region Party and pro-Russian parties, because this is possible. You know, this is possible. And I'm afraid
Sasha,
that it might happen.
we'll hear from you. We have another minute for you.
Thank you. I would say that my experience in Ukraine makes me feel that the revolution has not happened, and essentially the system has remained the same. It's just that individuals have changed and their rhetorics have changed, the form has changed, but substantively it all has remained the same. And so in the next year or two, we will observe whether that revolution can be completed, whether we can move those old post-Soviet oligarchs and post-Soviet bureaucrats out of the state administration or not. Right now, it looks pretty bad. Right now, it looks like we are losing. Right now, it does has a sense of a defeat. But it's too early to throw the towel. Geopolitically, I think the U.S. will lose a bit of interest in Ukraine because there will be transition, there will be too many things going on. The country is divided. So Ukraine has to rely on itself more than anything else. And for me, the answer is to do the liberal reform, to do the anti-corruption reform. Will Ukraine have political will? I don't know. I'm not certain. But I also believe that if that has not happened, there are very serious circumstances for Ukraine. The country may split. The country may become complete bankrupt. The country may sink into chaos. It's all still possible. It's actually quite possible. And that's a scary part of this whole scenario. So I am optimistic, but I also want to be a realist and see that it's an uphill road and it will be quite difficult to get where we want to get, much harder than it seemed just, say, 18 months ago when the expectations and hopes were pretty high.
Thank you, Yulia. Thank you very much, Giorgi, Rahim, Peter, Paul. See you next week. See you next week.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.